And when I talk about becoming a smart woman, I'm not talking about how many degrees you hold or how many books you've read, although education matters. I'm talking about the kind of smart that starts deep inside, the kind that comes from knowing yourself. Because the truth is, if you don't know who you are, the world will try to tell you who to be. And more often than not, it will get it wrong. There is a power that comes with self-awareness, a quiet confidence that cannot be faked or borrowed. It's the kind of knowing that doesn't need approval to feel worthy. A smart woman doesn't waste time trying to fit into spaces she wasn't made for, because she already knows her shape. She knows her strengths, but just as importantly, she knows her weaknesses. She knows what triggers her, what drains her, what fuels her, and that knowing doesn't come overnight. It comes from asking the hard questions, from sitting with yourself in the silence, from listening not just to what you say, but to what you feel. Sometimes we've been so conditioned to serve, to please, to show up for everyone else that we forget to show up for ourselves. We wake up one day and don't even recognize the woman in the mirror. And that's where the journey begins, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Asking, who am I when no one's watching? What do I really want out of this life? What do I really want out of this life? What am I afraid to admit to myself? Because when you know the answers to those questions, your decisions get easier, your path gets clearer. You stop chasing what's shiny and start choosing what's aligned. A smart woman knows her worth, so she doesn't over-explain. She doesn't beg for love. She doesn't shrink in the presence of greatness because she's secure in her own. She honors her voice even when it shakes. She trusts her gut even when others don't see what she sees. That's not arrogance. That's rootedness. That's a woman who has done the work of understanding herself, of accepting herself, and of loving herself enough to stand tall in her truth. And I'll tell you something. This kind of self-knowing, it's not a luxury. It's a necessity, because life will test you, people will disappoint you, circumstances will try to define you, but when you're anchored in who you are, you don't fall apart every time the wind blows. You learn to bend, not break. You learn to pause, not panic. You learn that your power is not in pretending, it's in being present to your own life, your own values, your own calling. And so if you want to be smart, truly smart, you have to begin there, inside, with honesty, with courage, with compassion for the woman you are and the woman you're becoming. Because when you know yourself, you stop being driven by noise and you start moving with purpose. And that is where your strength lives. That is where your wisdom begins. If there's one resource we can never get back, it's time. You can lose money and make it again. You can lose opportunities and find new ones. But once time is gone, it's gone. That's why a smart woman learns to value her time ruthlessly. Not just protect it, but honor it. Because time is not just hours on a clock. It's your energy, your peace, your growth, your life. And the truth is, too many of us give our time away without even thinking. We say yes when we mean no. We overcommit. We prioritize what's urgent for someone else over what's important for us. We fill our days with tasks, distractions, people, and conversations that do nothing to move us forward. And then we wonder why we feel so tired, why we're stuck, why we can't hear ourselves think. It's not always because we're doing too much. It's often because we're giving too much to the wrong things. A smart woman looks at her calendar and sees more than just meetings and appointments. She sees boundaries, she sees intention, she sees whether her life is being led by design or by default. Because the way you spend your time reveals what you truly value. And if you're not choosing your time wisely, someone else is choosing it for you. Every yes costs something. So ask yourself, what is this costing me? My peace? My purpose? My progress? We live in a world that loves busyness, that claps for hustle, that praises sacrifice, even when that sacrifice is our own well-being. But there's nothing smart about burnout. There's nothing wise about always being available, always being reachable, always being exhausted. A smart woman knows that rest is productive, that stillness is powerful, that saying no is not rude, is responsible. And it's not just about saying no to people, it's also about saying no to distractions. No to scrolling for hours while your dreams wait on the shelf. No to procrastinating on things you know matter. No to comparing your timeline with someone else's and losing hours of your own journey in the process. Your time is a mirror of your choices, and every minute spent on something meaningless is a minute stolen from something meaningful. So you have to get serious about what deserves your time, not just what's urgent, not just what's loud, but what's real. You don't have to answer every call. You don't have to attend every event. You don't have to prove anything by being everywhere all the time. The smartest women I've known aren't the busiest. They're the most intentional. They plan their days with care. They carve out space for what fuels them. And they guard that space like their life depends on it. Because it does. You want to build something meaningful? Protect your mornings. Create space to think. Build routines that ground you, not rush you. Schedule time for learning, for creating, for reflecting. Make your time reflect your priorities, not just your obligations. Because when you control your time, you control your life. You don't owe anybody your time simply because they ask for it. You don't have to explain or apologize for protecting your peace. A smart woman knows that every no to something that drains her is a yes to something that builds her. And that's not selfish, that's wisdom in action. A smart woman understands that learning is not just something you do in school. It's not something that ends when you get a diploma or land a job or reach a certain age. Learning is a lifestyle. It's a mindset. It's a commitment to never staying the same because the world is always changing, and if you're not growing, you're falling behind. It doesn't mean you need to know everything. It means you stay curious enough to keep evolving. There's something powerful about a woman who walks into a room and is always asking, what can I learn here? Not, who's watching me? Or do I look good enough? Or do I belong? But simply, what can this moment teach me? Because life will teach you if you're willing to listen. Every conversation, every challenge, every mistake, every win, it all has something to offer you, but you have to be humble enough to receive it. And let me tell you, it's not about being the smartest person in the room. In fact, a smart woman often chooses not to be because she knows the value of surrounding herself with people who stretch her thinking, who introduce her to new ideas, who challenge her comfort zone. She's not afraid to admit what she doesn't know. She's not ashamed to ask questions. Because her identity isn't tied to being right. It's tied to becoming better. Learning can look like reading a book that opens your mind. It can look like listening to a podcast that makes you sit up and say, I never thought of it that way. It can look like journaling through your own thoughts and making sense of what you feel. It can look like sitting at the feet of someone who's walked a road you haven't yet walked and asking them how they made it through. It can even look like failing and deciding to learn from the fall instead of feeling stuck in it. But here's the key. You've got to apply what you learn. It's not just about collecting knowledge, it's about using it. There are a lot of people walking around with good advice they've never taken. A smart woman learns something and then turns around and lives it. She lets it change how she thinks, how she moves, how she leads, how she loves. She becomes the lesson, not just the listener. And you've got to stay open. Because growth doesn't always come dressed the way you expect it. Sometimes the very thing that pushes you forward will come through discomfort. It will challenge you. It might even upset you. But the lesson is still in there. A smart woman doesn't turn away from the hard stuff. She digs in. She reflects. She keeps learning. The world we live in today is full of noise, full of surface-level answers, full of distractions that make you think you're learning when you're really just scrolling. But real growth, real transformation requires focus. It requires intention. It means choosing your inputs wisely, feeding your mind daily, and staying disciplined enough to seek wisdom instead of just entertainment. You want to rise? Keep learning, keep asking, keep stretching, because a woman who learns is a woman who leads. A woman who learns is a woman who lasts. And a woman who learns, truly learns, becomes unstoppable. A smart woman knows that the people she allows into her life are either watering her or draining her, either building her up or breaking her down. You cannot build a strong, beautiful, meaningful life surrounded by relationships that make you question your worth, your voice, or your dreams. Who you walk with matters. Who you open your heart to matters. Because we are influenced by more than just words. We're shaped by energy, by presence, by values, by how people make us feel about ourselves. It's not about being surrounded by perfect people. It's about being surrounded by intentional ones. People who want to see you grow, not shrink. People who celebrate your wins without envy. People who challenge you when you're wrong, but still believe in who you are. Smart women are not just smart with their minds, they're smart with their hearts. They understand that protecting their circle is not being cold, it's being wise. We've all had those moments where we've kept people around simply because they've always been there. History is not a reason to carry dead weight. Just because someone has been in your life for years doesn't mean they still belong. Growth demands release. It demands pruning. If something or someone is constantly making you second guess your dreams, bringing chaos into your peace, or clouding your clarity, then it's time to let go. Because you cannot fly if you're holding hands with those who keep you on the ground. A smart woman builds her relationships with intention, not desperation. She doesn't chase connections, she attracts alignment. She doesn't force closeness, she creates space for authenticity. She knows the difference between someone who genuinely supports her and someone who claps just loud enough to blend in. And when she finds those rare people, those soul-filling, honest, uplifting relationships, she pours into them. Because she understands that iron sharpens iron. That when two people show up real, whole, and willing, magic happens. There is something sacred about community that feeds you, that challenges your thinking, that reminds you of who you are when life tries to make you forget. but you cannot receive that if you're surrounded by noise and negativity. Smart women take inventory. They look around and ask, does this relationship bring peace or pressure, growth or guilt, truth or tension? And they act accordingly, not with bitterness, but with clarity. And sometimes the relationship you need to rebuild first is the one with yourself. Because the relationship you have with you sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. If you're constantly tolerating disrespect from yourself, talking down to yourself, doubting yourself, neglecting yourself, you'll start thinking that's what you deserve from others. But once you learn to love yourself fully, you no longer entertain people who can't love you well. Once you affirm your own voice, you don't crave validation from people who won't listen. Once you build your own foundation, no one can shake you loose from your value. You want to be a smart woman? Then don't just chase success. Don't just build the brand. Build the tribe. Build the sisterhood. Build the kind of relationships that speak life into you, challenge you to rise, and walk with you through the valleys and the mountaintops. Because life is too short and too sacred to be shared with people who dim your light. Surround yourself with those who remind you every single day, you are powerful, you are capable, and you were born to shine. There comes a time in every woman's life when she has to decide, am I going to live by pressure or am I going to live by purpose? Because pressure is loud. Pressure is urgent. Pressure makes you feel like you're behind, like you're not enough, like you've got to do more, be more, prove more right now. But purpose is steady. Purpose is quiet. Purpose doesn't compete or compare. It leads you from the inside out. A smart woman doesn't let the world's timelines rush her into decisions that don't feel right. She's not trying to check off boxes just to say she did it. She's trying to build a life that feels real, that feels full, that feels aligned with who she is. And she knows that kind of life doesn't happen by accident. It happens by intention. It happens when you stop chasing every expectation and start listening to your own soul. You don't need to have it all figured out by 25. You don't need to be married by 30, have kids by 35, be a millionaire by 40. You just need to be in motion, true, meaningful motion in the direction that lights you up. Not because someone told you to, but because it's what you know you're here for. A smart woman knows the difference between a life that looks good and a life that feels good. And she chooses the latter, even if it takes longer. Sometimes we move fast out of fear of missing out, fear of being judged, fear of not measuring up. But fear is no compass. It doesn't point you to your truth. It pushes you into places that were never meant for you. Purpose doesn't panic. Purpose moves with clarity. And when you live from that space, you may not go as fast as everyone else, but you will go far and you will go far. That kind of wisdom shows up in how you speak, how you spend, how you serve, how you lead. A smart woman takes the time to ask herself, why am I doing this? Not just, can I do it or should I do it, but does this really align with what matters to me? And if the answer is no, she has the courage to step back, to reassess, and to reroute. Because she knows that doing the wrong thing for the wrong reason, just to meet someone else's expectations, is the fastest way to lose yourself. You've got to be willing to disappoint others before you disappoint yourself. You've got to be willing to pause when the world wants you to rush. You've got to trust that your timing, your journey, your vision is not broken just because it's different. A smart woman doesn't apologize for walking her own path. She honors it. She knows that anything built in alignment with who she really is will last longer. feel better, and serve deeper. Purpose gives you permission to slow down, to simplify, to be present. It allows you to show up in every space fully, not frantically. You begin to recognize that the pressure to please, to keep up, to outdo, that's not power, that's knowing. Real power is found in peace, in direction, in knowing that you're not here to impress anyone. You're here to express the truth of who you are. So don't let pressure decide your story. Let purpose guide your steps. Because a smart woman doesn't just move fast, she moves forward. And when she moves with intention, nothing can stand in her way.